You know how some people have jobs that are super simple and easy to explain? Like they just say their job title and people automatically understand what it is that they do? Unfortunately for me, I've never really had one of those jobs. And in my career as a Haitian Creole interpreter, I spend a lot of my time explaining what each of those three terms means. In one of the very first videos I made, I explained what interpreting is and what the interpreting profession involves. And on the occasion of Creole Heritage Month, I'd now like to address the question I probably get the most. What is Creole? Now, for some people watching, that may seem like a super silly or basic question, but I promise you, I genuinely get that question a lot. And on one hand, I think it's actually pretty understandable because the word Creole itself means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Like people all around the world refer to their language as Creole or Creole or Creole or Criollo, and yet those distinct languages have completely different vocabularies and may not necessarily even be related to each other in the ways that we traditionally think about. And for some people, Creole isn't just a language, it refers to their entire culture, whether it's the food, the music, or even historical traditions. And it doesn't help that some languages that are categorized as Creoles by linguists are referred to differently by the speakers of those languages. So, in an effort to clarify things, we're going to have to start with the basics. Now, you already know that a language is a system of speech used and understood by a particular community of people, composed of a bunch of words and a bunch of rules for putting those words together to form meaningful communication. And you probably also know that a dialect is a specific or particular variety of a language that differs from other dialects or other varieties of that same language, either in pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, or some combination of all three. The word accent is a little bit vague, but basically it refers to a characteristic pronunciation. So the characteristic pronunciation of a particular dialect will be the accent that's associated with that dialect. But there are two things that people are often surprised to learn. One is that everyone speaks a dialect. And the second is that the difference between a language and a dialect is almost entirely vibes based. People are often surprised by this because the way we use the word dialect can often put it in a negative light, whereas languages are considered something that's official and good.
La conversación va más o menos así. Oye, entonces tu papá es lingüista, ¿cuántos idiomas habla? Bueno, habla el inglés, el español, el náhuatl. Ah, pero el náhuatl es solo un dialecto, ¿no?
Bruh. But in reality, just like you can't be in the United States without also physically being present in one of the states, you can't really be a native speaker of a language without also being a native speaker of one of the dialects of that language. And of course, in both cases, we're ignoring Puerto Rico. Speaking of Puerto Ricans, I remember a conversation I had with a friend of mine where he pressed me on the fact that there has to be some kind of quantifiable difference between languages and dialects. Like he found it very difficult to accept the fact that what's a language and what's a dialect basically comes down to a story that we've all agreed to tell ourselves rather than actual linguistic criteria. But as the Yiddish scholar Max Weinreich famously said, a language is just a dialect with an army and a navy. In other words, what constitutes a real language a lot of times just comes down to historical and political factors rather than linguistic ones. And in another video, we can kind of dissect that topic a little bit more. But for right now, we need to move on to a special category of languages known as Creoles. Like I said earlier, the word Creole itself can mean a lot of different things for a lot of people. And that's kind of been true from the very beginning. Originally, it's a term that arose in the strange and unusual circumstances of colonization. The English word Creole comes from the French word créole, which comes from the Spanish word criollo, which comes from the Portuguese word crioulo. And as an adjective and as a noun, it was used back in the day to refer very broadly, but also weirdly specifically to certain things pertaining to the colonies. And of course, this is from a European perspective. So it was stuff that belonged to the colonies as opposed to back home in Europe. So throughout the colonial time period, you can see the word Creole being used to refer either to a white European person living, raised, or born in the colonies, to a person of African descent, born, raised, or living in the colonies, to a mixed race person born, raised, or living in the colonies, or it could just kind of refer vaguely to anything having to do with the mixing or blending of European and African cultural traditions, including music, food, and most relevant to our conversation today, language. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm an interpreter, so I spend a lot of time thinking about how people can communicate when they don't have a common language. And historically, one situation that can arise is what's known as a contact language. There are lots of different types of contact languages, but the ones that are most relevant to our conversation today are Creoles and Pidgins. Now, the hilariously named pigeon actually doesn't come from the bird at all. It actually comes from the pronunciation of the word business in Chinese Pidgin English or Chinese Business English. And it was used to refer to a simplified contact language that developed between English speakers doing business in China back in the 1800s. And while originally referred specifically to that contact language that developed in that circumstance, it was later applied to other similar systems that developed in different places. And as we talked about before, a Creole language or a Creole originally referred to a special type of contact language that developed in the colonies under the conditions of slavery. Now, linguistically, the main difference between these two is that a true pidgin does not have any native speakers. In other words, people don't grow up speaking a pidgin as their mother tongue, but rather it's something that two different groups of people use to communicate when they don't share a common language. On the other hand, Creoles are spoken as native languages. People are born and raised using Creoles their entire lives as their native language. However, as anyone who's tried to change their nickname might know, it's really difficult to stop the inertia of an existing label.
The thing is, I'm supposed to be T-Bone. You're not a T-Bone. You're a perfect George. What?
So when a pidgin, which begins as a system of communication among two groups that don't share a native language, expands, becomes more complex, and then maybe is even adopted by later generations as their native language, often the term pidgin sticks. And that's how you end up with situations like Nigerian Pidgin English or Hawaiian Pidgin, which are confusingly Creole languages. Now, the specifics of how exactly Creoles form and whether all Creole languages necessarily have this first pidgin stage is something that's highly controversial and up for debate. And I fully look forward to making a video exploring the beef between Creole exceptionalists and uniformitarians, but this isn't that video. So rather than focusing on how Creoles form, let's take a look at Creoles form. So, as we said, the most well known Creole languages developed in the European colonies. The languages of those colonizers served as a superstrate language or a Lexifier language, meaning that they provided the majority of the vocabulary of the respective Creole language. And the native African languages of the enslaved people served as what's called a substrate language, contributing a little bit of vocabulary and possibly some grammatical structures, although, once again, that's a subject that's up for debate. We typically talk about Creole languages in groups based on which European language served as the Lexifier or superstrate language for that group. So there are English-based Creoles like Jamaican Patois, there are Portuguese-based Creoles like Cabo Verdeano, and probably the most well-known category are the French-based Creoles, such as Haitian Creole, which is one of, if not the most widely spoken one. So if you take a look at the following sentences, you can see some similarities. For one thing, the word order of Creoles tends to be subject, verb, object, word order, regardless of the word order of the Lexifier language. They also tend to use particles or short words before the verb to provide tense and aspect information rather than using verb endings like the Lexifier languages tend to. And the way pronouns function also tends to be distinctly similar. I won't get into all the details, but suffice it to say that there are enough grammatical similarities between different Creole languages that the subject of how and why that's the case ends up being an entire field of study in and of itself. And this is the follow-up question that I almost always get. Is Haitian Creole basically just French? And really, we can expand that to all the other Creoles too. How different are they really from the superstrate or Lexifier language that provided the vocabulary? Keep in mind, most of these languages formed in the 16 and 1700s. And since that time, each country has had a very unique historical trajectory that's influenced the way that Creole has developed. So some questions we need to ask ourselves. Has that country officially gained independence from the colonizing country? If so, how long ago? Do the people of that country have access to higher education back in the colonizing country? Is there a stable, free, basic education system back home? Is education provided in the Creole language, or is it only provided in the respective European language? Is there a body of literature in the language? Do they have a standard spelling and orthography? The answer to these questions is obviously going to vary on a case-by-case basis, but the gist of it is the bigger a presence the European colonizer language has had and continues to have, the more of an influence it's going to have on the development, use, and current status of the Creole language. And significant historical influence can even cause what's known as decreolization, a process by which a Creole language ends up becoming more and more similar to the European language that it's associated with. And also, in almost all cases, speech in these countries exists on a spectrum. On one end, you have what's called the basalectal form, or the form of the Creole that's most different from the European colonizing language. And on the other end, you have the acrolectal form, which is the form that's most heavily influenced by that European language. And where any given speaker falls on that spectrum is highly individualized. Okay, so let's look at a concrete example to see how this can play out. Haiti and Guadeloupe are both regions that have French as an official language. However, Haiti gained its independence in the early 1800s after a historic and brutal revolution. So relations between Haiti and France since then have been strained, to say the least. So, while all Haitians understand some degree of French due to just the similarity in vocabulary, exposure, and the fact that government and education systems generally do use French, it's those who get to have a good education who have a high degree of French fluency. And in a country where free education basically isn't a thing and a lot of people don't have the opportunity to finish school, French influence and fluency is definitely stronger in the upper and middle classes. Meanwhile, for basically the entirety of its history, Guadeloupe has been part of France, first as a colony, then as an overseas department. And so, as French citizens, people who grew up in Guadeloupe basically have the right to go back and forth to France, and they also get to go there for higher education. And while Guadeloupeans have definitely faced discrimination and faced their fair share of challenges, the French language and French culture have definitely played a more prominent role in the country's development in the past 200 years. And that's definitely had an influence on the language. And if literally one person wants me to do an actual deep dive on the differences between how these two Creoles have developed, I definitely am willing to do it. So let me know in the comments because I'm like chomping at the bit to get into that. Due to an intensive and prolific foreign exchange program known as slavery, there are literally dozens of Creole languages spoken around the world. And so it's understandable that not everyone is going to be super familiar with all the other ones that exist. So to give us a little bit of an overview and to give you an idea of what the Creole landscape looks like, let's talk about the geographic distribution of Creoles that are based on European languages. French-based Creoles are found in places like Haiti, then the Lesser Antilles in the Caribbean, the Mascarene Islands in the Indian Ocean, and Louisiana in North America. English-based Creoles can be found in the Caribbean, South America, North America, Asia, Polynesia, basically everywhere you could imagine. Portuguese-based Creoles are found in the ABC Islands of the Southern Caribbean, the former Portuguese colonies in Africa, and even parts of India, which that seems like something we need to be talking about more. And you can find Spanish-based Creoles like Parinquero and Chabacano spoken in South America and the Philippines, respectively. So to sum up, Creole languages are found all across the globe, and while to some degree their very existence is a testament to a kind of heartbreaking history, they're also a reflection of super vibrant and fascinating cultures. So whether they're rooted in French, English, Portuguese, Dutch, Spanish, each Creole tells a different story about the people who speak it, and looking into these languages can not only be revealing linguistically, it also lets us know something about us as people, how we adapt and continue to change. And it's a reminder that language itself is constantly changing and endlessly interesting. Anyway, thanks for watching. I've been Daniel. See you on the next one.
Je crois qu'il n'y a pas de temps pour assis avec les enfants pour faire les prendre la français aujourd'hui.
Any other words? Any last request?